Hornbill weekend hon and campaign of Vigon Chibai, to Naho impeding a hile, Ikam Sungadinga, Min to Pimama, Chris Rego, Colonel retired Hiai, Ama Hile, prestigious international award, Asoka Fellowship for South Asia. Analakatu Hiai, Waika Hiloin, Ama Panlang Hile, Sunbird Trust Hiai, Yai Trust in me 3,300 students, sponsor us, Sang Tum Nizatum. Waika Hiloin 53 partner institution Ikam Sunga institution tuam Somalitum to partner Northeast state nga 5 states of Northeast schools sagi inewa 7 schools le 8 hostel anewa tutan in Northeast Umpia mihin kwa impact hawe le 10,000 lives mi sing khatsanga tamzo impact power Waika Hiloin 40 graduates alumni lawyers doctors le MBA tuam Muketue hiwa 2025 China Sunbird Trust target hile to reach 25,000 students with sponsor to build up 50 institutions across Northeast India. Chi tinga hiya tuina I tune geso Chris Rego I hope hi. Hello sir, welcome to the show.
Hi Mang, very good to be here.
It's a regret that this interview should have happened in Northeast, especially in Churchanpur itself. But due to the pandemic, it's a rush and we are doing on Zoom.
Yes, I wish I could have been and met, in person, but sadly, this is the way it has to go with the current situation.
So this is the new normal we need to accept. And anyway, still we have technology. This is a rare privilege for us to have you as our guest in this show. So I hope this interview would be a big inspiration and a big eye-opening lesson for many of the Northeast. Anyway, sir, can you kindly quickly introduce yourself, your career, and tell us something about yourself?
Well, Mang, I am from Bangalore, born in a middle-class family. My dad was an Air Force officer and my mom a homemaker. So I got to travel across the country, but spent a lot of my youth in Bangalore. Happened to join the Army through the National Defense Academy in 1980. And I got commissioned as an officer into the Indian Army Corps of Engineers in 1984. And since then have been posted right across the Army, various duties, different parts of the country from, the north, south, and also very fortunate to get 2 beautiful tenures in the Northeast. And I had a good career, thoroughly enjoyed my stay and the beautiful life that it gave me and my family. Retired in 2016 as a colonel and immediately, of course, took over the organization which I had helped to found and became the CEO. So sir, that is in brief a small introduction. Yeah,
that's a wonderful introduction. Thank you for the introductions. I am quite surprised to know that you voluntarily asked yourself to be in the conflict zone of Manipur. Many people dreaded to come and there is a lot of bad publicity. What makes you do that, sir?
Well, I look at Manipur from a different lens. I think it is one of the most beautiful states of India. As the name itself says, it's the jewel. And I look at it from so many different perspectives. One does not only have to see the conflict that is there, the natural beauty, it's got everything. It's got the plains, the beautiful green plains, the hills, culture, I think more than 30 different identities, music, very rich forms of art, and literature. If you look at it from that lens, this is one of the most beautiful places to be in. From another perspective, I'd had the experience of staying in this conflict zone, and I felt that something had to be done to remedy the situation which had been there for decades and give the children, especially the youth, a better opportunity like their peers elsewhere in India. So that was the reason I opted to come here. I felt that at least in this career, I must come to this beautiful state and spend at least one of my 10 years over here. And I can only be thankful and privileged that I've had this opportunity.
Sir, this is a very controversial, this is a very out of the box thinking. I don't think your parents would be supporting you. Was it a spontaneous idea that comes up from yourself that I should go and be part of this conflict zone? What is so interesting for you to come beside what you have told me now?
Well, in the army, when you have challenges, you say, bring them on. So yes, I was fully aware of the conflict, the decades of conflict. I've had friends here. I've been for the funerals of some of my colleagues. I've seen the violence personally during my 4 years when I was posted with the border roads in Imphal. There was a bomb blast less than 30 feet away from where I was sitting. One of our vehicles was blown up. Drivers were kidnapped. There was extortion, all sorts of things. But again, I would like to say that I felt there was a huge opportunity here. And I had the view that things could change, mindsets had to change, and that the armed forces don't necessarily from the country's point of view to preserve integrity and whatever. There is always a more deeper solution and a deep-rooted solution, a sustainable solution, which is changing the mindsets of people all around, whether from the rest of the country or the people over here, to bring people together. And I felt that was the most important reason for solving this conflict, the best possible reason. It could never be achieved by the force of the power of the gun or by stationing the armed forces or the paramilitary forces in this part of the country. And I think that reasoning has borne out completely in the past 3-4 years when we have seen what we have achieved and we have seen how the mindsets all around have been achieved.
Was that being on the ground reality, ground zero of this situation that makes you come up with the idea of white bullet? When did you start getting the idea that you should be dedicating your life, your time, effort, and making impacts, touching across lives in Northeast?
Well, my first tenure in the Northeast was actually in Mizoram with the Assam Rifles. I got to spend a good 3.5 years in that beautiful state. And yes, even though the peace accord in Mizoram was signed way back in 1986, and generally Mizoram is considered one of the most peaceful northeastern states, yet there was a deep underlying suspicion of people from outside the state, from other parts of the country, and certainly a suspicion of the army and Assam Rifles. And one would not blame local people given the background of the insurgency that had been there right from 1965, 66, around that time. So when I was posted to the Assam Rifles in Mizoram in 2003, I took a decision. My wife and I took this decision that let's learn the perspective of the people. Let's learn their reality instead of what we have been prejudiced with coming from another part of the country. And the first step, of course, is getting down to the people, being among them and making friends with them. So as opposed to letting things happen, that was a decision which changed our lives literally. Once we were with the people, we learned of the realities, the nuances, and we realized that why many youth were going astray was that they didn't have access to education, either the financial access or the physical access to education. Financial access, of course, because they could not afford some of the schools or the hostels, and the physical access because they had to climb through 2 hills and go through a stream or a river and get to school. So those are reasons that kept children from education. Therefore, they were not empowered. Without empowerment, no employability. And then it became very easy to get radicalized, to get into wrong things like going across the border, smuggling, drugs, and all that. So with this, my wife and I, we realized that the way to go was to educate get the children this access to education. And then came the second component, which I think is very, very important. Not just the access to education, but using this education to build peace and friendship among communities. And when the kids in Mizoram, their parents and families saw that people from the other parts of the country were helping them, sponsoring their children, their minds immediately opened and said, wow, these people are not bad at all. So that gave us the idea of getting people together from all over through this process, not just the education itself, but the process of sponsoring children.
How did you start the White Bullet movement? Did you start with a big budget, or was it love and dedication? What was the most challenge, the biggest challenge on your journey to make such a big impact in Northeast? How was the start?
So what you're referring to as the White Bullet revolution is, the chalk pieces, they look like bullets. And opening schools, getting children into class, that's what we call the white bullets. So a different type of a weapon that is being used. So yes, so that gave us the inspiration that build schools, build hostels, get the children into school. That would be a way of not just educating a few children, but making it a mass movement and getting people from the rest of the country to realize that India was not just Bombay or Hyderabad or Bangalore or Delhi, but the Northeast also was a very integral part, and out of sight need not be out of mind. So what we started initially from our own pockets, my wife and I sponsoring children, slowly spread to our friends. And now I'm happy to say it is the rest of the country, and we are getting support from everywhere for this purpose.
It's a very long journey. Now it has come to almost fruition. The impact is there to be seen with 3,300 children, 53 partner institutions across 5 Northeast Indian states, 7 schools and 8 hostels. You have impacted more than 10,000 lives. So, sir, the question I want to ask you, how do you make such a big difference with your Sunbird Trust? Even at the place where I am, we have more than 30,000 NGOs. What makes your NGO so stand out, result-oriented, and very transparent from the rest of the other NGOs? What is the success secret? What is your formula for this?
Mang, you've rightly pointed out that sadly in today's times, the word NGO is sometimes a bad word. It is synonymous with corruption, with power, with stealing money, and a whole lot of wrong things. So what really makes Sunbird stand out and stand out robustly is where we come from, our values of the utmost integrity in the first place, integrity in every aspect, integrity of intent, financial integrity, social integrity, whatever you may like to call it. That is the first base. We are an extremely transparent organization, which our donors have appreciated and which causes them to stay with us. The second big aspect which differentiates us from all other NGOs is that we do not follow any type of agenda. We are not for any particular religion, for any group, for any tribe, any community, any political aspirations. We are certainly not there for the money factors. If at all we may be anything, our agenda is one that is bringing people together, bringing peace in the conflict zone. Those are our objectives. And then the third aspect of why we are doing so well is my young team members. We are now, what we started just 2 or 3 of us 2 or 3 years ago, we are now 20 plus strong, and maybe we'll even reach 30 or 40 by the end of this year. So these are young men and women who in the very first place, most of them in their 20s, some in their early 30s. Their very intention of coming to a conflict zone separates them from all the rest who would be in more comfortable places like in the cities and whatever. So that's the first bar that you know about their reason and their rationale for coming here. And all these young team members coming from different parts of the country, completely different culture, different religion, are absolutely committed and passionate and staying under the most trying circumstances in the remotest parts of Manipur. I think even people sitting in Imphal would be surprised to know where these team members are staying and under what circumstances they are staying. So these are the strong pillars that drive this organization. And the fourth is, of course, I will not forget our very loyal donors and mentors who have stood by us. They have come, of course, and visited. They've been able to touch and feel where what is the result of their mentorship and their generosity towards us. And they are the next pillar which makes this organization sustainable, which gives us a lot of inspiration to move forward. So these are the things that I could say that is different about Sunbird Trust.
I really agree with you, sir. One of the MLA, very influential politician, look at one of your school in Singat, and he was wondering, where do they get money? When government is sponsoring crores of money, we don't see such quality work. Can you tell us, how do you maintain the quality of work and the sincerity? And also please tell us where are the areas that you have impacted and what are the projects that are running across different parts of Northeast?
You see, Mang, when we started this project, my wife and I, it was from our own pockets. We definitely did struggle to sponsor the children that we did because in those days, salaries was not very great. But somewhere I had read that have the passion and the means will follow. I could hardly imagine from a time where we were struggling to sponsor a few students to now, when we're already sponsoring more than 3,300 children and we're likely to expand further. I think that has come out of the way that we've structured this organization and the passion and commitment of the whole team. So what has been seen, there is a saying that you cannot fool, you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you cannot fool all the people all the time. But the reverse also holds true, which nobody has ever said, that when you've done so much physically, when we've achieved so much through our team, through our donors, through our work, you cannot hide it either. So fortunately, the good work has been seen. The justice has not only been done, but it has been seen to be done. And this has spread through multiple forums to people across the country. And with God's grace, we have very loyal donors from everywhere. And let me tell you, these are not only the very rich people. We have a lady who's a tailor working in a small village in Rajasthan. And I started getting these small little donations of 300 rupees, 500 rupees, and no PAN number, no nothing. So one day I was able to track down and I phoned the person. And she said, sir, I just love the work you're doing. I have a small business. I'm barely able to support my family, but I want to be part of your story. Okay. So our donors range from that to people who are much better off, to organizations, to a couple of the big companies who have all sent people here and checked us out. So now a phase has come where we are inspiring people to contribute and they are contributing accordingly. I would like to say one more thing is that under no circumstances should it be thought that we are a very wealthy organization with pots of money. That is entirely untrue. We go on a case-by-case basis. If we are asked to build a school, then we take out our begging bowls, all of us in the team, we go to different locations, we give presentations, we plead with people and get the money. So we are not an organization that is getting any huge funding either here, or we are certainly not getting a rupee from anybody abroad. We're not getting any funding from organizations that have any agendas, whether religious, political, or cultural, or otherwise. So yes, it's difficult, but we have the good name, and given a good project, I'm sure that we will be able to work on it and get it through.
And also, sir, I am wondering, how could you get so talented people, dedicated people with foreign degree, PhD, research scholar, coming to work under you as a team? How do you convince them? Are you paying them a very good money? What brings them to, as you have told before, to the hardest part, the remotest, even sometimes they're walking days on days where vehicle is not reaching. How do you convince people who are qualified, very well educated, who could have earned lucrative salary to come down here walking among the poorest of the poor?
Yes, so that's what I said. One of the big filters is that you can offer a person even a lakh of rupees as salary. And if you tell that person that, you know, there may be a ambush or there may be extortion, and this is the place where sometimes there are problems like this, those people will never come here even if you offer them a lakh of rupees. Okay, so that is the first filter. And talking about salaries, let me talk about my first colleague in the organization, a young girl from Kerala, perhaps 23 years old, heard about us, heard about our work. And she contacted me and said, "Sir, I want to join your organization. I just love what you're doing, with this work of peace through education." I said, "Sorry, madam, wrong number. We don't have salaries in this organization. We work in the middle of the forest. This is a conflict zone, remote areas of electricity, water supply, connectivity. All these are issues. You would certainly have problems with culture in terms of the food and things like that." She said, "Yes, sir, I heard all about that. You just give me a roof over my head and give me food to eat and I'll be fine with or without the salary." So those are the type of people we draw. And we tell everybody, ours is not a refuge for people who needing job. This is people who want just job will never survive here. They have to have the passion to serve. They have to have the love for the children. They have to understand what it is to work in a conflict zone. They have to have the heart and feel and the pulse of the people that they work with. Not come loaded with prejudice, ki Northeastern people are like this and they do like this and whatever. So let me answer your questions one by one. Yes, we get only the most passionate people. The word has spread and most of our team members have come by reference from those who have already come and lived this life, who have seen the transparency, who have seen the commitment, who have tested the love and affection of the people where they work. They spread the words and we get people with the same values to join us. We are not an organization which gives extremely high salaries. In fact, they are deliberately far lower than anywhere else because that brings us the best people who are not coming for money but are coming for something else. So let me put it at that. It's become now from a time when we had to advertise, let me put it to you that at this point of time, we've got more than 100 applicants from all over the country, from Azim Premji University, from Teach for India, Gandhi Fellows, Masters in Social Work. Yes, it feels very good. And we're going to make sure that through a very rigorous process that we get just the right people with the right set of values.
I see. Many NGOs who are running, which are run by locals, they are making lots of excuses. We cannot run this project, that project, because we got disturbance from insurgencies, extortions, kidnappings, or so many disturbance. How do you overcome? What are the techniques that you're using? What are the challenges to overcome all these challenges, sir?
You have to understand that when I built my first hostel way back in 2014 in a small village near Noni, I was warned. Firstly, I was still in uniform at that time when I got this idea. I was warned that have you gone crazy? You go through the forest, you could be ambushed, there could be insurgents and whatever. I said, if the people have invited me, I will, it is a mutual trust. I will go there and see what it is all about. And I think one of the things that happened is when we went to the village and started working, it was a complete understanding that we would work only for the benefit of the children, that we're only there for the community. We are not there for money or to change their religion or to change their culture. I think when the local people saw and tasted the fruits of what we were able to partner with them in doing, the word spread very quickly. If you say there are militants, I'm sure that their children were also in our hostel or in our schools. And I'm sure that their families were the first to benefit. And I'm sure that they wanted their children to have a better life than what they were forced to have for whatever reasons. So all my team members, wherever they're staying, stay under this risk. You hear of the kidnapping of so many people, the people from the outside, the people who are coming to the railway project. We have the trust and faith in the communities where we work with. that we are part of the same family, and we are quite sure that we will be safe and protected while we are with them. Having said that, yes, one has to appreciate, one can never say, even the so-called militants, some of them may not be there for ideology, they may be there as plain simple criminals to extort money. That risk is always there, but without any risk, there is no gain. And ours is a robust and strong organization where we will take risks to achieve our objectives.
So, sir, not only your venture in the Northeast, partnering with 53 institutions, sponsoring 3,300 students, 7 school, 8 hostels, impacting 10,000 lives. You have 40 graduates, alumni. How do they turn out to? How well do they catch up your vision, and how much passionate are they to join you in this great mission, Sunbird Trust in transforming life? What is the response from the alumni?
Actually, Mang, we have more than 50 alumni now, and we have at least another, I think, 50 or 60 students in graduation, could be graduating next year or the year after next. So let's start with the alumni. Let's talk about the first few that my wife and I sponsored way back in Mizoram. 3 or 4 of them are in different parts of the world. One's in Australia, one's in America, one's in Dubai. One of them is now a super specialist doctor, again, from a cultivator's family, a very, very poor background where the elders were not even educated. Proud that this person is now one of the highest qualified doctors in Mizoram and also on our board of Sunbird Trust. And similarly, we have another alumnus who's passed out from the National Law School of Bangalore, from the Chakma refugee community, and doing very well. So our alumni, what I'm really happy is that so many of them are paying back in a very big way. For instance, the one who I mentioned was a doctor, is sponsoring children from his own village now, 7 or 8 children from his own village. That is the type of transformation that we are seeing. Let me go a little further. So these alumni, as I mentioned, have done MBA, done medicine, done their social work, masters in social work, bachelors of social work, engineering, law, and all that. What has been really exciting for my wife and I is the 35 children that we had taken from all the remote parts of Manipur to Bangalore for their graduation. 14 of them graduated in October. And out of those 14, what is of great joy to us is that 10 of them have come back to Sunbird. They're actually teaching in our schools, staying in the small villages. So that is our biggest reward, and that is the proof of our work.
Looking after children in Northeast itself is a very big challenge. How do you come up with the idea that you and your wife should be keeping 30 kids to go to the best college in Bangalore? How challenging and how fulfilling it is to manage these children, these grown-up.
Yeah, there were 35 of them who we had brought down to Bangalore in 2018. Yes, indeed, it is a challenge, whether from Northeast or elsewhere, bringing 35 teenagers from a different culture and, being teenagers themselves to Bangalore, totally different environment for them, with their language, culture, food, so many different things. Yes, indeed, a huge challenge. But I had the faith, and I believe that this had to be the first step in trying out what we were, wanted to do, of transforming these lives and giving these children an opportunity. And it had to be something that we should have taken the risk to do. And all I can say, it has been so immensely rewarding to see how these youngsters, their super confidence, the way they have broadened their mindset, the skills that they have picked up, it has made us extremely proud. And with this gives us the hope that we need to expand this a lot further. If we get the support from the rest of the country, we can turn what was just a few children into a movement across the Northeast. And I just hope we are going to get there.
Definitely, the movement is getting on fire. I think it's gonna set the whole. It's gonna be like a wildfire in the future. So many NGOs or societies or trusts are lamenting the unprecedented situation of the pandemic. They make good excuse to withdraw their project, but how did Sunbird Trust try to stay relevant and help? What are the role played by Sunbird Trust during the crisis when so many Northeast students just cannot go back home? They're out of work. This is some real hard times for the Northeast people. What role did Sunbird Trust play during the COVID first wave?
Mang, I'm happy to say that the past year has been a huge challenge for all of us. Every one of us, there has hardly been anybody who has been untouched. But you can imagine an organization like Sunbird Trust with our young team members in tiny villages, the remotest parts of Manipur, Nagaland, Assam, during this time of complete lockdown. They even ran out of food. Of course, the villagers took great care of them, ran out of gas. Parents worried, wanting them to come back. But I'm happy to say that, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And that is beautifully applied by our organization when all our team members stayed in their post. Unfortunately, I was trapped on this side, but it actually may have turned out to be a good thing. And I'll tell you what happened. So I was trapped at Bangalore and I could not go back because of the lockdown and whatever. So we found that actually at Bangalore, there were a large number of mainly youth from the Northeast who were very badly affected by the crisis. Firstly, hostels closed down without any knowledge of, very short time and just told the children go back home. But before they could go back home, the flights were cancelled. So many of them were on the road. They could not pay the high rents and deposits that were required. We managed to help many of those children by facilitating them to stay in certain schools and institutions. Many of those who are working in small hotels and things like that in the hospitality industry, they didn't have kitchens at home. So they used to go and eat in local shops and, sometimes get a meal in the restaurant. Many of these youngsters were absolutely stranded because all hotels, restaurants, everything was closed. We had a desperate situation among many of the Northeastern people. And I'm happy to say, thanks to the very good standing and good name of Sunbird Trust, we became the nodal organization in Bangalore looking after the entire Northeast community. So much so that the government of Karnataka itself entrusted us with the, many of the roles of looking after these youth. And to quantify this, I can say that we looked after and we were able to give rations to sustain as many as 14,000 people during those bad months of April, May, June 2020. You may wonder how a tiny organization like ours was able to do such a massive job. But the secret, as usual, was partnership. I think the heads of every tribe and every community from the Northeast in Bangalore, more than 38 or 39 different organizations of the tribes, the communities from the plains and hills of Manipur, from Nagaland, Assam, all came to us. And these were people who had intimate contact with their team members or people from their community through their social fora and whatever. So we got to be the big providers, and they did the last mile delivery right up to the homes of people staying in small little apartments and staying even on 40 kilometers from town. And through this beautiful network and beautiful coordination and logistics, through the thick of the corona crisis, we reached these people all across Bangalore. Next to that, when they were able to get the trains, we were also able to see that they went back comfortably, that they had food and provisions for the journey. So this was a lovely test where it brought out, at the worst of times, it brought out the best in us, it showed what we could achieve. I'm extremely grateful to our donors who stood by us, because to get that amount, that quantity of rations was not easy at all. And I could just say that just sitting in our office, we got calls from so many of these donors giving us truckloads of rations and all to donate, because they saw our ability to reach the people and they saw the efficiency of what we were doing. In addition to that, Sunbird Trust also was able to reach northeastern people. Some of those stranded even in Assam on their way back to Manipur. We were able to reach people in Manipur through the army and Assam Rifles. We were able to send the rations with their help. So all in all, COVID turned out to be a beautiful time for us to prove what we wanted to do and to prove our tenacity and ruggedness at a time of deep trouble.
So you have mentioned before, Sunbird Trust played a big role in trying to build trust between neglected parts of Northeast and mainstream India, mainland India. How much do you think you are changing the perspective of the Northeast towards the mainstream Indian, mainland Indian, and also what are some good things that you find about the Northeast people that the mainland Indians see something very unique in us?
Yeah. So I'd like to put that question in both ways. It's not only the perception of Northeast people of the rest of India, but I think even more importantly of the perception of people from the rest of India about the Northeast people. Being in a place like Bangalore, you get loaded, any part of India, you get loaded with perspectives, so-called knowledge. Northeastern people, they all do kung fu. Okay, they like noodles. This type of prejudices exist. They eat this type of food or whatever.
And they don't even believe that if we tell them we are Indians.
Yes. Sad to say, when I say that we're working in Manipur, you get an answer, oh, isn't that near Korea? Yes. So I have experienced it, and I think the basis of why we are so successful is that we realize that this is a perception that has been there. It's going to take a little while. Things don't change immediately. For instance, we don't have a word of Northeastern history when we studied in school. The great Ahom dynasty of Assam, I think, which is more than 600-700 years old. We don't hear a word about it. We don't hear about what is happening in Manipur. So, but things are changing dramatically now. If you ask people, especially people from the Northeast who have now in different parts of India, they will come back with different stories of acceptance, of the good opportunities they are getting, of the hospitality that they are getting. So change did not happen, at the stroke of midnight hour, 1947. It is work in progress for people to get to understand each other, to realize they are different cultures. Look at Manipur itself, our own state. Who would believe that in a population of barely 28 or 30 lakh people, there are more than 30 different identities? And, different culture, different languages, different way of life. So that is the level of diversity. So the same thing goes from the Northeast perspective of the rest of the country. Unfortunately, it's, vested interests, it's politicians, it's sometimes even the religious leaders that sort of spread this, that, India is racist and people are racist towards Northeastern people. If at all there is any proof, this COVID crisis has proved it, how people from the Northeast were loved, how they were supported in their time of crisis. People will put one racist incident and say that all people from mainland India are like this. I think this has to be realized, that the change has to come from both sides. Let me be very frank and very open. I have seen extreme racism in some parts of India, but I've also experienced it, my family has experienced it in the Northeast. And let's not deny that racism towards outsiders is very prevalent and sadly being spread by some of people who are empowered, educated, who are spreading this hatred against people from outside. So you, me, and enlightened people have to realize we are all one. There is no them and there is no us. We are all us. And what is required of the youth is to realize this is a beautiful country, that all of India belongs to them. It is not just Churachandpur or Imphal. It is the Himalayas, it's the desert sands, it's Bangalore, the seas. Every part of India belongs to them. And we are marching towards being a superpower maybe in the next 10, 15, 20 years. And the opportunities that are sort of opening out across the country, So for the perspective of the Northeast youth, I can say there is only one thing that prevents the good things that they can reach there. They need the attitude and the hard work and the positivity that things can happen. If they work hard, they're going to get there. So if at all I had to be asked about what advice I can give the youth especially is be positive. Don't focus on small little incidents that are said to be negative. Instead, look at the great opportunities that await you.
So far, Sunbird Trust has been doing tremendous job in Northeast, even winning prestigious International Ashoka Fellowship for South Asia. And also, you were featured in several magazines, Top 10 Entrepreneur Karma Yogis of Indian Armed Forces. And one of the books is written by the author, H.S. Sidhu, if I got it right. He was writing a story about success from being mad. Do I get it right? Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Looking at your target till 2025, you don't seem to be going down. It's your target to sponsor 25,000 students and also to build up 50 institutions. How challenging it is to keep up the momentum, especially in hard times like this when economic recession, unprecedented coronavirus is coming. Are these excuses to be slowing down, or these are giving you a better challenge so that you can come up stronger? How do you try to achieve your goals?
Yeah, Mang, through this interview, if I could speak to the people who are watching this, typically when you hear the word NGO, you think these guys are loaded with money. They can do a whole lot of things, that kind of thing. I want to once again express to anybody who may be watching this interview that it is a lot of struggle and a lot of sacrifice from my whole team to bring the resources that we are getting. It is a case-to-case basis. We don't have tons of money in the bank. And believe it or not, there are some of us doing 12 and 14-hour days, even on Saturdays and Sundays. So it is a very tough call to keep this momentum. Even our donors are having serious problems. Some of them have dropped off. Some of our big donors have dropped off. They said when they cannot pay their employee salaries, they've got no business to be donating to us. So having said that, the one thing that our partners know about Sunbird Trust, okay, I would like to stress on the word partners. We are not, I would say in bold and underlined letters, a charity organization. We are an organization of partnership where we work arm in arm with local communities, where they put in something, we put in something, and we work together to achieve those objectives. If people come to us thinking that, okay, here's the ATM machine, just put a request and the money will flow, it's not going to be that way at all. We have to have unity of objectives. We have to have, we work with people who've got the same interests, the same values as us. So having said all that, one of our things that all our partners know about us is dependability. When we take on something, we will try to see it through to whatever it takes to see it through. And yes, as you mentioned, COVID brings one crisis after the other. Our own team has been affected with a person getting affected. There have been members of our team members' families that have died. We are just like everybody else. We're going through this crisis in every possible way. But that's once again like to say that this organization, when things get tough, we will be tougher and we will transcend whatever those difficulties that may be thrown to us. So we are there, Mang. We're not going anywhere. If anything, after this, we've already become stronger through the first year, and just watch us going through with your blessings and the blessings of our supporters and our donors and mentors. We will not only go through this, but come out much stronger on the other side.
Sir, thank you so much for all the initiative that you have taken. On behalf of all the Nordic people, would really, from the bottom of my heart, would like to thank you for the initiative you have taken. But bigger than that, I'd like to say you have shown us the light You have shown us the way that NGO is not easy money, and this is a real eye-opening for so many NGOs which are good only for photo ops. I think your NGO is the gold standard. This should be an inspiration when things are done with sincerity. This is the impact that's having. I, on behalf of Hornbill Cable Network, would like to really would like to thank you for all the initiatives, sir. And I hope this is going to get better, and so many kids would be privileged to, would be blessed to get the privilege, the sponsorship and all the programs. So, sir, thank you so much for taking time for this interview. And I hope you'll be coming back soon, very soon, once the COVID second wave is receding. What would be your last words to the audience who are watching this interview, sir?
My best wishes to everybody who's watching this interview. It's a tough time for everybody, for families, people out of work. Like you said, it's the new reality. So my wishes to everybody is keep strong, and together we can get through this. There is a silver lining. We are going to come out maybe in a better world where we have learned quite a few lessons, where we've come out stronger and leaner. So despite the challenges that we may be facing, let's keep smiling and let's keep strong. So even for anybody watching this interview, I would also like to say that it's not easy for us to give the scholarships and the sponsorships. Like I said, for each case, we have to fight and get it. And so it shouldn't be perceived that we would be able to give it across the board. We can do our best and we can try. And we would certainly try to encourage the children who are doing extremely well, who has worked very hard. We could try and help out these children, anybody who may be watching.
Thank you so much for your time, sir. With that, we have come to the end of our interview. Let me make the conclusion in local dialect to the viewers. Hornbill weekend hon en campel tune holim POile Sir Chris Rego Colonel retired here. A retired kid in he North India Pumpia. Then in again hit mabangin student sang tum partner institution som ngalini North State ngasunga school sagile hostel giat 10,000 lives missing khatwal hin khua anasukatu NGO le trust at tontak mama Sunbird trust te tunga kipak tu igen wa tunia din weekend hon ya tana sauta n210 na ngaihdan social media enten na comment ule na feedback go bang inspiration ay kele bang zilthang na nei wa chi ikishare to adingwa ya tana Hornbill Cable Network interview tunia din sauta he